So you join me in my hovel of a studio. A mate of mine once said that my studio looks like a branch of cash converters. Ha ha ha. Now, today I'm going to show you the one-man band setup that I originally came up with in 2008, and it was an answer to losing a lot of gigs with the financial crisis and the fallout that followed in sort of 2008, 9, 10, that sort of time. Now, I've got a set of drums on the floor here, which I just play with my feet. And then I've got a guitar here, which has got 4 guitar strings and 2 bass strings. The idea being that you can put bass, chords and drums down and sing over the top. And that's kind of it. But there's more. There's an unexpected bonus in that it helps me a lot with my production as well. Let's have a look. You put me through. You stole my money and my cigarettes. I don't have no help yet. I wanna know, would you tell me? Won't you tell me? I'd love to know. Take me. So that's basically what the setup allows. It allows a drum rhythm that's pretty much constant. Fills, yeah, it's a little bit harder. A basic bass line and just chords. Once you've put a chord down, once you've done a little stab like that, you've conveyed the harmony to the listener without having to reinforce it. It doesn't have to be. And actually you want to create some dynamic range and have lots of gaps in order that top line, I don't know why, can actually come out without being swamped by lots of other things. So actually there's a massive bonus in production terms here. You just have the bare minimum required to get the best possible result, or at least in my view a really good result. Now what I've got here is I've got my wireless system as well that connects up to the middle box here, which is a preamp that has 2 outputs. So my guitar feeds the preamp, and then the 2 outputs, which are basically the same, feed 2 sides of a graphic equalizer. So you've got one side where you strip all the bass off and put it through a guitar amp, and then another side where you strip all the treble off and boost a bit of the bass, which goes through the bass amp. Luckily this bass amp has a tweeter as well, so I've actually put my drums through it as well, so you get the full frequency range. And then my drums, the sounds come from an old laptop which has got an old version of Logic on, and I've basically programmed this up so that you can get pretty much a main 8-beat on either hi-hats or ride cymbal, which, let's face it, forms a vast majority of those sort of drumming, those drum rhythms. Of course, there are other things like ghost notes on the snare I can't really do. There are other things like fills involving more than one tom I can't do, but I've got a single tom in the middle, so I can do, and I've got another snare sound. So I can do that sort of thing. Or if I'm really in control with my feet, you can do a snare fill as well. I've got an individual bass drum, so I can sort of go. Not that I can keep that up for very long. I've done gigs on it where I sort of get up at the end of the first half going and can't really move my legs. But it's masses of fun because you can see how much you can get out of just 3 things, but not overcook anything. All the parts have their own place. And of course, doing 3 things at once means that you can't do your one thing, like your guitar playing or your bass playing or your drumming. You can't do that to the best possible sort of technical level, so you have to work out what to take off. Now what you can do with this is, if you've got an 8-beat, if you want 16ths, I mean, I've got an individual hi-hat. I've got that sort of thing, but actually it involves you running twice as fast. Why not put some of the 16th bits on the guitar part instead? so that you've got all of these sort of ghost notes on the guitar. And that means you don't need your 16ths on the hi-hat. Bass-wise, I'm just mostly root and fifth. But I mean, that's what a bass player does in a country band or, you know, in some sort of soul bands. There's not huge complication. You don't want to... Unless you... But then you're directing most of your attention to that bass part, leaving the chords out. But as I said just now, if you put one chord, and then maybe just dial it back for the verse. That sort of thing. Now, if you slow down and do a 12/8 rhythm, you can do... I've got some quiet hi-hats with my left foot here. So my snare and my kick and snare have got a hi-hat sample each. But then I've got this one in between, which allows me my 8 beat. But if I play it slow enough, I can do 2 beats here, which means I can get a 12/8. And I also have a cross stick here instead of a snare. And like a quiet ride cymbal as well. I've got a second snare drum and a second bass, as I've just said there. And I also have an open hi-hat, which is here. So if I want to do my disco, etc, etc, etc. So you just work with the sort of bare minimum of things with your drum sounds. There's no sort of flashy fills, there's no sort of multi-toms, nothing like that, or sort of you know, cross sticks on the, or rim shots, for example. I've only got 2 bass strings, so that means the number of bass lines I can play is limited. Of course, the chords, I have to be in the right place on the neck in order to keep the bass going. There are lots and lots of restrictions, but with restrictions comes massive benefits for your production and just general sort of approach to orchestration and how to manage those sort of band instruments.